Hey, Jeremy here from Long Speed Marine. So I'm just doing a bit of an update here on the Mercury. I will get back on the paint series very soon. I've had a few boo-boos and I'm out of breath because I just had to shovel my way into the shop because it's a snowstorm out there. So even from the house to the shop, it was hard for me to get out here. So hair is flying around. Anyways, I will get back on the paint series soon. I'll explain what's going on here and why I'm not on that. So let's get showing you what's going on here. All right, so I started off with the roof and wanted to get the roof done and then be able to lift the car up to do the rest of the body work down here. Now, what I wanted to do for the rest of the body work and moving on is do these parts down below, because that would be pretty similar to what you folks would be doing. I would think, you know, doing a restoration on a car, just fixing up some rust. Some of these patches down here are going to be pretty similar to, you know, just any other car. You know, I don't imagine that a lot of folks are tackling a roof chop. So I was hoping to move on to the bottom body work where I would get to my body filler stage and show you sanding out the body filler and applying it and getting it smooth. So I'm just waiting to get this roof done. Now, what's happened up here is, as I said, I had a low spot in this area right here on this side, but not on the other side. The other side was good. It flowed pretty well. But on this side, I had a low spot here in the middle. So what I did that was a bit of a screw up is I started sanding this side first, and I forgot about that. I forgot that there was a low spot in here. And so I was just basically blocking that out, trying to get that straight. Then I moved on to the other side and went, oh, I forgot about this curve. So I literally spent a whole day sanding this out, getting this nice and straight. This looked really great, by the way. Was nice and straight, looked wonderful. But then I moved over here and was like, oh yeah, there's a curve. Oops, I got to put that curve in this side. So what I'm going to do now is get this side sanded out first so that this flows. And then hopefully I can mimic the same on that side so that the roof flows. Basically, we've got a slope going all the way down and then it tips off at the back. So I'm trying to do the same thing on the other side. Basically, what happened on that side is it just goes flat. So I want both sides to look pretty similar. So that's the scoop there. The other thing too is I had a couple people comment and asked, how come you're not using a guide coat on this? Because I'm far from the guide coat stage. You can still see the differences in the Bondo. And when you're sanding it, this here is actually just two different coats of Bondo. So that's why I've got this edge. But basically, as I'm sanding this, I can see where the color changes and where the low spots are. And I'm not to the fine level of needing a guide coat. So the plan now is going to be sand this off and get this relatively flat. Then hopefully I'll be able to sand out the rest of the door and window area. And then I can primer basically from here up and do the whole roof, because then what I can do is go to that next stage where I'm really paying attention to it. My primer will basically be my guide coat. As I showed you before, when you sand this primer, you can actually see it sort of change color from the black to the gray. So that will be my guide coat on the top. And hopefully by that stage, it will just be, you know, smoothing out that, because I'll put it on extra thick up here to be my high build primer, and then I can sand that down smooth. And then basically after that, it'll be primer and then paint the roof, you know, your actual color. So that's the plan. I'm going to get on sanding this side. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you sanding this out, how I'm going to block this, because I figure I might as well. So that's what I'm going to be doing in this video. So I've got to stop talking and get to work, climb my butt up in here and get sanding this area out. Get my Up in here. It's easier than leaning all the way over the car. Okay. So, basically what you're going to do, so what I did wrong is I was going this way and flattening this part out on this side. So what I want to start doing, the first thing I did here, just quickly, is obviously I wear a mask doing this, my mask right here, that I'm just covered in dust. But I can't talk while I'm doing this with the mask on. So I'm just going to explain it quick. I just knocked the very, very high spots down a bit with my DA. You could probably do most of this with the DA because it's not flat, but what you don't want to have is some divots in it, especially being the roof. If this was the side of the car, I'd probably sand the whole thing with the DA because you're less likely to notice it. Obviously, you don't want the waves in the side of the car, but some of the panels, you know, and down here and stuff, you won't really notice it. But up here, you know, you want to make sure that this looks good, especially because I chopped the top and people are going to be over-analyzing this more than anything. So, and yourself. Your biggest critic is you. So, knocked the high spots down with that. And then on this sanding board, I basically have 40 grit, so it will knock this stuff down pretty quickly. Again, what I was doing was going this way, and you could see with this block, I'm basically, if I'm doing it that way, I'm going to take that curve out that runs this way. So I don't want to do that. I want to run it this way because then it's going to take less of the curve out. But you can see I've still got side to side movement here. So what you basically can do is try and press this down with your hands. There is a bit of flex to it. So that's what I will start doing. And I'm just basically going to go. And you want to do it like a crisscross pattern because you don't want to have, like, especially if I was to do this, I mean, I would sand the line into it. Going like this actually isn't too bad, even if I did do it back and forth. I mean, people will tell you otherwise, but if I was to go like this, I'm not going to get lines in it, but you're really not going to when you do a crisscross like that. You're basically stopping yourself from trying to get lines and divots. So again, I don't want to go too far over to the edge. When I do, I've got this really flexible block that I can use over here. So that's what I can use on the sides. Now I want to show you, I'm going to blow this off. Hopefully I can reach the camera. I also run my big shop thing in to try and suck this dust out. I've got the garage, the big door cracked, and then I run that shop fan to try and just take some of this dust out of here. So I'll do the rough one, and then I've got this really long block, which will allow me to get an even better curve. This one's even more flexible. So I'll use this one. This has got 80 grit on it. So I'll use this one after, just to get this curve even more defined. But I can show you now where I can see the difference in the, basically the difference in the filler. This is going to be. All right, so here you can see it's very obvious the low spots because that's where my squeegee was from spreading this stuff out. So you can see the difference in colors, but I can tell, I don't know if you guys can see on the camera, but there's a bit of a low spot here. So I can see a little bit of the difference. I can see less scratches in this area right here. So as I sand this out, I'm going to be careful with that, and you can kind of watch the color changing in your scratches that you've got in it. The other thing too is as I start to get up into this black primer, basically it creates dust from the black primer, and you can sort of just rub that over it, and it will help you see. But I mean, your hand is also a pretty good gauge. I can tell just by rubbing over this that I've got a low spot right here in my hand. So I'll just keep working this back and forth. So again, you want to go this direction. rather than this direction because of the curve I'm trying to get into it. If I go like this, I'm going to flatten all that stuff out, and I don't want to do that right now. I want to make this smooth this way and curve this way, so I'm going to start with here and then move over to here, and hopefully I can match this part to this, and that's how I'm going to do it. So I start off again with this sander here. So I'll use this one just to knock it down and get it quick. Then I'll stop with that, and then I'll move on to this with the 80 grit and get that curve in, because this one really flexes easily. So that's what I'm going to do, and it's going to be what it's going to be. It's going to be as good as it's going to get with this amount of filler on it. Like I said, this is now my third time sanding this out, so I don't want to sand it anymore, and it's going to be what it's going to be. So I'm going to carry on sanding this. I got to put my mask on, and I'll bring you guys back in when I get farther along. All right, so hopefully you can hear me over the fan. So I've now got this section smooth. Hit the bare metal, so stop. So now what I'll do is I will move over to this section, somewhat overlapping this, to try and get the same plane as this over here. And then I'll just keep working my way across the roof, and hopefully it will look somewhat symmetrical. And then once I get out of the car, I will move on to doing the sides. I'll sand the windows, and then hopefully we can shoot some primer on this today. Okay, so I've got this area all sanded down. I'm happy with that. I moved on to the window, so this window is all sanded down. The inside here is all sanded nicely. Now I just got to do this door and around that A-pillar, and then move to the other side. And then really this is ready to shoot with some primer. So I'm just going to shoot the whole top, basically from there up and over. I'll shoot it with primer, and yeah, I'll see you when I'm mixing up some primer. All right, so we're ready to spray primer on this, and I've wiped it down, I've blown it off, wiped it down, done all that stuff. So what I'm using, again, like I said in the first video, DTM 2008 is the primer surfacer direct to metal that I'm using from Valspar. It is a 4 to 1 to 1 if I'm using it as a surfacer, which I am, which means like a high build. So I'll be doing 4 parts of the primer, 1 part activator, and 1 part reducer. I could probably not reduce it down, and then it would be even thicker. But anyways, that's what the instructions say, so that's what I'm going to do. My gun here, I bought these a few years ago. This one here, it's called Max Air. It came in a set of 2 larger guns and then a smaller sort of touch-up gun. This one has a 1.7 nozzle in it. So cheaper guns, nothing special about them. And yeah, I've got it set to, I think, as wide as I can. I'm going to have a wide spray pattern on it, and pretty much wide open for the flow. So I'm going to move rather quickly with this as I'm spraying it. And I don't know what my pressure will be yet. I'll check that as I do, but it's usually around 20 or less, somewhere around there, as I run low pressures. So I'm going to get this stuff mixed up. Oh, also make sure you have a good mask always. So I switched out the filters here on my mask from the pink ones, which are dust filters, to these ones here, which are basically your filters for painting or any chemical stuff like that. So different chemicals have different filters, but these are the ones for painting. So I'm going to flick the fan on. I'm going to mix this stuff up. And because it's got the activator in it, it means it hardens, so you don't want to mix up too much. It will start to harden. Hopefully I can get this done in 1 quart on the roof. And if not, then I'll have to be quick to mix up another one. I'm just going to give this another wipe off because it looks like it's a little bit bad. And then I'm going to flick the fan. This is really dusty. Oh, and I'm not running a filter in the gun. I don't know why. Because I couldn't find it. That's really why. Just use this to try and stir this up. Sure. Yeah. All the solids are in the bottom. Look at that. So you always want to make sure you stir this stuff up. Just look at all those solids on the bottom. I always make a mess. I'll say that right now. You can also just try giving this a shake before you rip the lid off. I could hammer it back on and give it a shake, but this should work. I can feel the chunks coming off the bottom. Doing my best. Or ideally, you get them to shake it at the paint store. You come home and do this almost right away. If I hadn't let this sit, if this was, a day or so after I bought this, all those solids wouldn't be on the bottom as much. You just need to give it a quick shake and a quick stir. Mixed up. All right, there you go, our first round of colors. So you saw me having some issues with the gun. What happened was this area right in here, basically that controls how much comes out. It was backed out for some reason. I've never touched that, so not sure why it was backed out. But anyways, So now we got our first round of color on this side where I was fighting with that gun a little bit. It's a little bit funky, but it'll dry out all right. Remember, this is just primer. This is just a base for me to start block sanding this out. The thing is, this shows us all of our issues. I guess I bumped into it here with the hose probably. So you've got some nicks and stuff that you can see in it. This will go flat, but as it's basically shiny now, I can see a lot of my scratch marks. So basically this will just be the guide that I'll start blocking with and try and get this straight. And I'll probably have to do at least one more of these, which means one more thick. So I'll block this out, one more thick coat of primer like this as a surfacer. And then we should be able to shoot one last coat of primer just as a sealer. And then after that, the color can go on from there. But hey, at least it's back into one color again. All right, well, that's going to do it for this one. This is, I guess we'll call this part 1.1, 1.2, 1.5. I don't know. Anyways, part 2 of the bodywork part will be putting body filler on this part down here and getting onto that section, because I know I didn't really show the putting on the body filler part. Yay, now you've seen the putting on primer part ahead of that. Anyways, we'll get to that. So this will allow me to block this out. And yeah, I'm pretty stoked with how this is coming along. So hey, please make sure you hit that subscribe, smash the like, follow along with this and all my other projects that I got going on. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.